Maybe you have heard this story before on social media, in an article, or from someone who read it somewhere. It goes like this. The witch from Hansel and Gretel, she really existed. Her name was Katharina Schraderin. She wasn't a witch, but a baker. And she didn't eat children, she was murdered for her gingerbread recipe. Hansel and Gretel, the real perpetrators. The witch, the real victim. And the Brothers Grimm, accomplices in a falsification of history. This story has been circulating for decades. It gets shared, quoted, retold. And I'm telling you today, it's false. But it's false in a way that's almost even better than the legend itself. Because behind this story lies one of the most brilliant pranks. And behind the fairy tale itself, there really is dark, real history there. Just not the history you think. Today I will tell you both the story of the hoax and the truth it conceals. Welcome or welcome back to Lemmy History. Let's start with the story the way it's told. We are in the 17th century, at the end of the 30 Years' War. A baker named Katharina Schraderin, known as the Baker Hexe, the baking witch, makes the best gingerbread for miles around. Her recipe is legendary. It's said to be the original recipe for the famous Nuremberg gingerbread. A Nuremberg confectioner named Hans Metzler wants this recipe. First he proposes marriage to Katharina. She refuses, so he denounces her as a witch. Katharina is arrested, interrogated, tortured, but she doesn't confess. And because she doesn't confess, she has to be released. She withdraws to a lonely house in the Spessart with 4 large ovens. There she wants to pursue her craft in peace. But Hans Metzler doesn't give up. Together with his sister Grete, he breaks into her house. The siblings kill the baker and burn her into one of her own ovens. They don't find the recipe. 300 years later, in 1962, a school teacher named Georg Ossek stumbles upon the remains of the house in the Spessart. He begins to dig, and he finds the foundations of 4 ovens, a female skeleton, baking equipment, and, in a small iron chest, a handwritten gingerbread recipe. The case seems solved. Hansel and Gretel weren't children in distress. They were adult murderers. And the fairy tale is the cover-up of a crime. A perfect story. It has a crime, a motive, an excavation, pieces of evidence. It has just one single problem. None of it ever happened. The whole story comes from a book. It was published in 1963 under the title The Truth About Hansel and Gretel. The author, Hans Traxler. And that name alone should have set off every alarm bell. Because Hans Traxler was no historian, no expert for the field. Traxler was an illustrator and satirist, later a co-founder of the satirical magazines Pardon and Titanic. His book was a parody, a satire of scholarship. Traxler wanted to poke fun at a particular type of non-fiction book, the sensational revelation that supposedly overturns everything we thought we knew. The model was obvious. Heinrich Schliemann had found Troy with Homer in hand, so why not go looking for the gingerbread house with the Brothers Grimm in hand? And Traxler did it perfectly. The book has everything a serious work of non-fiction needs: footnotes, sources, maps, and more than 40 illustrations, photos of excavations, of the finds, of the recipe, except Georg Ossek, the schoolteacher and amateur archaeologist, never existed. The excavation photos were taken in a construction pit, and the witch's supposed baking equipment came from the toy kitchen belonging to Traxler's daughter. The book became a bestseller. Readers were outraged, fascinated, unsettled. Newspapers reported on it. Many considered the story plausible. Some considered it proven. It took months before Traxler publicly declared it was all made up, from the first page to the last. Why did it work, and why does it still work today? First, the apparatus. Photos, footnotes, a list of sources. We are trained to read these signals as proof of credibility. Whoever cites sources isn't lying, or so we think. Traxler exploited exactly this reflex. Second, precision. The story names dates, places, Katharina Schraderin, 1647, the Spessart. Precise details feel true, even though they are the easiest thing to invent. Third, and this is the most important point, we want it to be true. The reversal of perpetrator and victim is irresistible. Finally, the real story. Finally, a look behind the facade. Whoever retells this story feels smarter than everyone who only knows the fairy tale. That's the mechanism behind every good piece of misinformation. Then as now. And the hoax has had a lasting effect. In 1987, the story was made into a movie in Germany. In Italy, a scientist believed it to be true, and in the 1980s, a pharmacist from Lower Main, inspired by Traxler, tongue-in-cheek proposed the theory that Snow White was in reality. No, that's a story for another day. So much for the hoax. But now comes the part that really interests me as a historian. Because Traxler's satire only worked because it drew on something real. There were witch trials. There were women who were burned. And there was hunger that tore families apart. The legend is false. The fear behind it was real. Hansel and Gretel is not a uniquely German tale. Folklorists classify the story as belonging to a type found all across Europe. Children fall into the clutches of a man-eater and escape through cunning. In France, Charles Perrault had already published Les Petits Bouchers, Little Thumbling, back in 1697. There too, a woodcutter and his wife abandon their children in the forest because they can no longer feed them. Abandoning children because there is no food. This motive appears again and again, and it doesn't come from nowhere. In the early 14th century, Europe was struck by one of the worst famines in its history. Starting in 1315, it rained for months on end. Harvests rotted in the fields for several years running. Prices exploded, hundreds of thousands died. Chroniclers of the time report things that are hard to even say aloud. Parents who left their children behind because they couldn't feed them, and rumors of people eating people. Whether our fairy tale can be traced directly back to those years can't be proven. Fairy tales don't carry a date, but listen to how the Brothers Grimm describe the witch's house. The little house was built of bread and roofed with cake, but the windows were of clear sugar. A house made of bread. That's not a child's fantasy. That's the dream of people who know hunger. So the first dark truth behind Hansel and Gretel is not the murder of a baker, it's hunger and what it does to families. The second truth concerns the witch. And here I first need to clear up a widespread misconception. When we think of witch burnings, we think of the Dark Middle Ages. That's wrong. The Great Witch persecutions are not a medieval phenomenon. They belong to the early modern era. I'm a historian specializing in the Middle Ages, and this is the thing I have to correct again and again. Their peak falls roughly between 1560 and 1630. This is the era of the printing press, the Reformation, the early beginnings of natural science. Incidentally, Draxler dated his invented story exactly right, 1647, right in the middle of it. Researchers estimate that around 50,000 people were executed as witches in Europe, roughly half of them within the Holy Roman Empire. The German lands were the heartland of the persecution. About 3/4 of the victims were women. And who were these women? Here comes the second misconception. The popular idea says it was the wise women who were targeted. Herbalists, midwives, healers whose knowledge became dangerous to the church. This idea is romantic, and scholarship has long since abandoned it. The trial records show a different picture. It was mostly ordinary people who were targeted. The poor, the old, the unmarried, quarrelsome neighbors, people on the margins of village life. And in the great waves of trials, eventually it caught up with everyone. Men too, children too, even councilmen and mayors. The mechanism was almost always the same. A misfortune happens, a child dies, livestock perish, hail destroys the harvest. The misfortune needs someone to blame. Suspicion falls on someone you were already feuding with anyway. What follows is denunciation, interrogation, torture, under torture a confession, and within the confession, new names. That's how the trials ate their way through entire regions. The intellectual foundation was laid by a book, the Malleus Maleficarum, The Hammer of Witches, published in 1486. Its author, the Dominican friar Heinrich Kramer, was so obsessed with his mission that he partly fabricated the endorsement from the University of Cologne that lent his book its authority. We will talk about Kramer in detail another time. This monster deserves far more attention. And now I get to the heart of the matter. The Draxler legend reached millions because it gives an invented witch a name, Katharina Schraderin. But the real victims had names too. They are recorded in the trial documents. Katharina Hinault, postmistress of Cologne, one of the most influential women in her city, executed in 1627 after a trial riddled with errors. It wasn't until 2012, almost 400 years later, that the Cologne City Council officially rehabilitated her. Anna Göldi, a maidservant in Glarus, Switzerland, executed in 1782, one of the last women in Europe to die for witchcraft, rehabilitated in 28. So, if you want to remember one name, forget Katharina Schraderin. Remember Katharina Hinault. One last question remains. What did the Brothers Grimm actually do? Draxler's satire tongue-in-cheek accused them of covering up a crime. In reality, they did something else entirely, something that's almost more interesting. Hansel and Gretel appeared in 1812 in the first edition of the Children's and Household Tales as story number 15. The Grimms had the tale from oral tradition from their circle in Hesse. But they didn't simply document it, they shaped it. The clearest example, in the 1812 version, it's the birth mother who sends her children into the forest. Only starting with the 4th edition of 1814 did Wilhelm Grimm turn her into a stepmother. Think for a moment about what this change means. The original story said, desperation can drive parents to give up their own children. That was the truth of the famine years, and at some point that very truth was simply too harsh for a children's book. So the birth mother became a stepmother. The cruelty was given a mask. The Grimms didn't cover up a crime, but bit by bit they made the fairy tale more bearable, and 120 years later Hans Traxler lampooned exactly that, our belief that there must be a case file hiding behind every fairy tale. Let's take stock. The story of the murdered baker Katharina Schraderin is invented. A brilliant satire by Hans Traxler from 1963, one that's still retold as fact to this day. But the fairy tale of Hansel and Gretel still carries real history within it. The memory of hunger that tore families apart and the figure of the witch leads us into the era of the real persecutions, with tens of thousands of real victims whose names are recorded in trial documents. There's a bitter irony in all this. The invented witch still gets headlines and clicks today. The real victims get footnotes. Once upon a time, that's how fairy tales begin. History begins differently, with sources, with records, with names. And sometimes it begins with a single sentence, one you should check before you pass it on. Thanks for watching. A special thanks to my members and patrons who make this possible. To all of you, please like, comment and subscribe if you liked the video. And see you in the next one. Bye!